Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cybersecurity Recruiter podcast. Today, I'm joined by Chris Tjotjos. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. Well, so are you?
Yeah, I'm good. There always feels like there's a lot going on in the world. Every time we chat, there's always loads going on, loads of events, loads of global drama. And today's no different.
That's what keeps us in business. We have something to do now.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've probably had, in the last 2 years, we've probably had about 10 years worth of news, haven't we? It's been wild.
It's been crazy for a while now. Certainly, yes.
Yeah, it has, mate. Cool. But Chris, I'm just going to do you a bit of an intro for the folks that don't know you. If I get any of this wrong, feel free to correct me or shout at me or both. But started off life as a sales representative and a senior account manager. And then you progressed to president and CEO of Logos Communications, DBA Black Box Network. You were also vice president of the solutions practice, Black Box Network Services as well for well over 6 years, and Logo Communications for around 20 years. You're currently the co-founder and chief strategy officer for Promethea, and you have been for around a decade. You were also a chief illumination expert for Green Systems and have been for around 6 years. And you were also the co-founder of Simvay Systems and have been over 5 years. Welcome to the show, buddy.
The land was all together. I was selling older than Methuselah.
I was thinking you've got quite a lot going on simultaneously right now.
It's funny because I always said to people I coach or mentor a little bit is, don't spread yourself thin. You got to focus like a magnifying glass. And I'm doing the opposite right now.
Do you know what I think, though, is you'll know better than me on this, or it'd be nice to hear what you think, but maybe in the early days, what you're saying, I think is really true, because you're involved with multiple businesses now. If you did that from day one with probably minimal funds, that would be impossible. Once you've some success, I suppose it gets easier to do more things simultaneously.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, in the early days, it's more the example I've used a lot of times. It's an airplane going down a runway. You've got to go full throttle from the get-go. And you've only got so much runway. Anything short of full throttle, you don't get to what's called airborne, where you get the high-low pressure and aerodynamics kicks in and your plane gets up there. And then when you get up there, you scale back. Otherwise, you burn out of fuel before you got to your destination. Yeah, in the early days, it's focusing, it's full throttle, it's getting up there. And I said a little bit of joking now about not spreading thin. When you build teams around you, you can do multiple things later where you've got, I want to say, synergy and scale. And so it affords you to do these multiple things, but only once you've gotten up to that point.
And yeah, you know, those early days, say your first successful business, what did those early days actually look like?
Oh, grind. It was funny that before I started my company, I was working at a few other companies. And I think what I always thought in my mind was I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So what I did, even working at the other companies, was always trying to think like a business owner. And what that meant was I didn't wait for them to tell me to do what was right. If I saw something, I did it, even if it wasn't in my realm of responsibility. I treated the customers like I wanted to be treated. I tried to look at systems within our company that would make us more efficient. Again, I wasn't an owner yet. And when I got to the point where I couldn't control the environment to do what I thought was right, that was when I thought it was time to leave. And when I finally left, I was also forewarned by some other business owners. It's going to be great. You're going to do fine, except you got to understand, you're going to be in a heads down role for 5 years. You're not going to make a dime. I was like, 5 years won't take that long. No, it will, because everything you make, you have to plow it back into the company. That's the only way you'll scale it and leverage it. And they were right. And they say we were overnight successes in 20 years. It really does take that kind of a timeline to put everything in place. And it doesn't mean you have fun and all that stuff along the way. And success is financial, but in the beginning, it's so important to just keep plowing it back in.
Yeah, even 5 years, because social media does it, the internet does it, but everyone just sees the finished product. But head down for 5 years, like, I think people will listen and go, it's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment. I don't want to use too many analogies, but maybe I do. I read a book really early on in my days called Financial Freedom by Mark Harrelson. And I found it on eBay because I wanted to give it to my kids. And he told a story of compounding. And the story was this: if you were going to work for me for 35 days, you have two options. I'm going to pay you 1 penny a day, compounded 100%. So tomorrow you get 2 cents, 4 cents the next day, 8, 16, 32, 64. By then our week's like $2.56, $2.06. or $1,000 a day for 35 days. Which would you take? And they don't know what the ending is of the penny yet. So they know there's a trick behind it. Oh, I'll take the penny, Dad. It's my kid said, okay, I'm going to change that to 10,000 a day. So now I'm going to give you 350,000 this way, or 1 penny a day. So 3 of the 4 kids take the one, the other I'm holding out, Dad. I'm like, okay, you're very shrewd to the last one. I'm going to give you $1 million a day for 35 days. Oh my gosh, I'm taking that. There's no way a penny could be more than that. If you do the math, if you just put it on the calculator, it's over $300 million
Wow.
on a penny a day compound. So what's the point of that story? The point of the story is it's your lifetime of working 35 years. And in the early days, you're making pennies, and you had to leave those pennies in making the return, whatever that return is. Because if you take them out to buy what we call the butter items versus the steal items, which was buy a nice car before you need it, or fancy this or fancy that, it never leverages to the 300 million. If you let it build and compound, in your later years, you could spend like a drunken sailor and you have so much more money. So it's about getting your money and getting your efforts compounding in the early days, and let them before you get crazy with spending.
Yeah. I love hearing it, because some of this I know and I need to hear again, and some of it I don't know. I've got a friend in private equity, and he showed me a compounding interest equation, and it was pretty complex, but it was compounding powerful, isn't it? Really powerful.
Did he show you how you could do it in real estate? Because that was this guy's phenomenal thing. Like, how do you make 100% return a year in real estate? That whole thing was other people's money. What does that mean? So back in the day, we could buy houses on these loads that are 5% down. So if you had 2 choices, and this is going to leverage into the business side in the second year, you could buy one house for $100,000 and put it all down. And if it goes up on average 5% a year, you're making 5% on your money, so to speak. The other strategy is you buy 20 houses and put 5% down on the 20. So you're borrowing the other 95,000 on an interest rate. And these are houses then you are renting out. And in fact, those 20 now are going up 5% a year. The rent is covering your mortgage. And here's the way you're making 100%. Now, people living in the rent to be in debt, like almost $2 million. Yes, but the rents are covering that. So going into business, the same thing. You're going to debt, but if you build a recurring revenue model to cover that, and then you just last it up to your mortgage loan, then you get to this compounding effect. So it's a long-term strategy, but it's so proven. And a lot of us are looking for the short, quick win. I'm going to do it overnight. Buy Bitcoin house and hope it's 100 in 1 day. It doesn't, but did we buy the house? Kind of thing. So it doesn't always work that.
Yeah. And at the same time, maybe I'm realizing it as I get older, but 5 years, like a year seems to go quick. 3 or 4 years just seems to whiz by. Now, you've had your latest business for 5 years. I bet that's gone quick. It flies, doesn't it?
Yeah. You just wonder, like, really more to yet. It would be like Butler. Like I say, I maybe got about almost 30 more to go, but you never know. We never get Lord lead us. So.
Yeah, so taking a long-term play. The property thing is interesting as well, because I've seen people do that as well, and then get the rents, get some equity, and then refinance it again and go again without using any more of their own money, because they can refinance the property because there's a revenue stream coming in against it. But you can have some fun with that, can't you?
Well, there's some real successful models that do that. Again, it's only if they're strict enough with their spending that they'll refinance it and spend it on the wrong items.
Yeah,
but putting it back to work until that's paid off. Because interest in a business that's not spent properly, I always call it a cement life jacket. You put it on and it pulls you down. Then you go underwater. So you just can't be against you. It's got to be used as a tool, and you got to be covered to cover it properly. Right.
I'm glad we did, because it was interesting. It's I normally start is I've done you a bit of an intro, and you've had successful businesses, and you've got simultaneous successful businesses now. What's a day in the life like for you now? What's it look like?
Yeah. So you mentioned I got a few different areas I'm working in. Promethea was an energy provider. I got into that because when I sold, the loan was to Black Box. I stayed there for 5 years, but then at that time, after about 30 years, it was time to go, but I stayed at a great team. And when I left, I had to honor my 5-year non-compete. Still wishing to work, I just got into something totally different, which was doing energy contracts, gas electric for companies. As I was doing that, I came across someone who was doing LED lighting. Her name was Donna. She was a woman-owned business, and it was a natural fit together. When my clients were trying to save money on the contracts, I also saved them money on the LED side of it. She agreed to sell me 49% of the company. That way we could stay a woman-owned business. So then, as I was doing that, I ended up getting to help a friend who worked for me many years ago value his company was going to sell his IT company. And as I was doing that, he looked, you want to sell it? I was ready to get back in. I had another year left on my non-compete. Long story short, I ended up starting a business with some of the guys that were leaving there. And look at this, 3 on my hand here at the same time. But it's all with great teams. My partner is awesome in the IT space. And so now what I try to do is I also sit and still sit on several boards. And boards are like phenomenal. When I had logos, I started a board around 2001, an advisory board. And it was probably one of the most game-changing events of my business career I ever had. I had started logos, now I'm going to back up to here, and I'll eventually get to what I'm doing today. But 9, and we had this just meteoric rise through the 90s because of Y2K was coming. The internet was born first. The divestiture had happened with Model and all these high speed, everything was coming out. Motors were coming, then muxes, switches, IP telephony. A Y2K was coming. So everybody was buying like crazy fiends. 1999 was fantastic. When I bought my partner out, 99, we wanted to move on. I'm at the very peak of the time, and 3 months later, the internet would just implode. So when I see the student is ready to teach their peers, I'm like, what am I going to do? I bought my partner out. No one's buying anything now. And I met a wonderful person named Jack Kale, who was just one of the most influential entrepreneurs of my life and a lot of people's lives. He started a company called Manco, the duct tape company. Anyway, he talked me into starting the advisory board, mentioned it, and I did back then. And in doing that, I learned so much from them. And then I also got on boards and then got to learn not only from my experience giving it to the boards, but also learning from the other board members. Fast forward to today, now what am I doing? I feel kind of like an advisor to some of my own companies. I've got great teams in here. I get to advise them. I still learn from them using some of my past experience. And so I get to spread my time between some of those. Simvay is the IT one. It's probably growing, I say, the fastest right now just because there's so much opportunity both in the infrastructure side and the security side. And then I also been dabbling in other things real estate wise. And so it's really balancing between those 4 different things in a day. I monitor and turn it around. What's really wicked is my eyesight's been going. So I don't have anything monitors on my desk. I got 3 75-inch monitors in here, and it looks kind of like Command Central here. So I get to put everything up there and look at it at least. Hopefully I'm doing something with it.
Yeah, no, the thing is as well, because you mentioned sold logos to Black Box. I bet that was amazing. But then you mentioned there as well, you bought your partner out the peak and you just pushed over it. I bet that took some grit and resilience.
It did for a couple of standpoints. One was he was like my best friend kind of thing. He was a great guy. The really weird thing between this to this day, we're still great friends. We never argued. Not one disagreement in business. I've seen business people. I was one not to go into business with a friend kind of thing. And he was a friend before we started the business. We were buying real estate together, 2, 3, and 4 families. So we were selling IT equipment by day, and they called us slum landlords at night. But we were slumming. We were fixing our places up. We cut our teeth, our relationship together on fixing up properties kind of thing. So anyway, he had more of a analyst type of way of thinking, was very smart, way smarter than me. And he would call us more the driver persuader because we had these tests done on us. So he would think and I would act, and when we put the 2 together was a great combination, I'd say. So at the end of the 99, he was ready to sell and I wasn't. And he said, look, I think you probably want to keep doing this. I said, well, we had 7 offers to get bought out because it was everybody was buying everything. So I took the highest offer and I went to my wife. I said, I'm going to, for Tim, the highest offer. We have to put everything we saved in cash up. I have to go borrow from the bank, and Tim's also going to loan some back. So we have 3 big, but it's okay because in a year, everything's just going to double again. The market's going like this. And literally it was December of 99. And in March, we finally came out with the meltdown. But I had a heart attack. I was doing his job and my job, paying him a lot per month. I had no money in the bank. I had about 47 employees and I had to make payroll. And nobody was buying. They're like, oh, what did I do? It was freaky. It was the scariest thing ever. Fortunately, we got through it. And like I said, meeting Jack just was a whole other bonding. We changed everything around. I started sharing with the team. Like he said, look, you got too much on your plate. Do you show your financials to your team? Like, of course not. Nobody shows them. No, it's the wrong idea. You got to share. You got to open up the books. What? I can't believe it. Nobody does that. And the idea was not to just show them the books, it was to share profits with them too. So we started, we call it the EBIT plan. So okay, here's where we're at. If we make this much, I could do that in the banks. But if we make that much, we're not having a business and all these headings. Then I'm making some money and I'm going to give you guys a percent back. And if we make that much, I'm going to give you a higher percent. So we have these 3 different goal levels. And so we must be reported back to the team. This is where we're at as a company. And it changed everyone's mindsets. Hey, why are you making a color copy? Stop that. That's burning EBIT dollars. That's an internal document. You don't need to do that. Or so it just got everybody a lot more on the same page. And we became very transparent with all that. So we started to change things, and we turned the ship around. Took a couple of years. And then '08 melted down again. Oh my gosh.
That EBIT plan got everyone on your team thinking like you used to think when you were employed.
That was the goal. It worked. I think it worked. It's like, just share with everybody. Share both our times and share the good times and the profits.
You know, the other thing as well, it's like listening to you talk there about Y2K and then 2008. Like, I went through a phase once of reading like autobiographies. So like I was reading like famous billionaires from the UK and Richard Branson. I was reading all this. And you know what? Nearly every single one of them had either made everything and lost it like 2 or 3 times, or done this, like, but there was never an autobiography I read where it was like, started a business, everything was fine, up all the way. It just doesn't work like that.
That's the one thing a lot of people don't understand, is that it's never this to this, never, it's this. And then you fight that. And then it could be, again, not just the smart ones, but the ones with tenacity. They fight you at risk and come back. And so that's already said that. I didn't mention one more thing, and that's when I met Jack. It's a crazy story. What happened, the people that were cleaning our building, we bought the building 5 years before the bio. They used the reference of Mango because they cleaned that building as well. So for several years, they kept saying, someday we're going to shoot Jack Kale. And Jack was always like in the magazines here in the papers, Entrepreneur of the Year. We sold duct tape to Walmart. He met Sam Walton. Yeah, you should make that happen someday. I would just tease, it was a family-run business. When the implosion talked about happened, Jack coincidentally sold his company in 97 and had a 3-year stint of staying there. And in 2000, he was looking to just hang his hat somewhere where he could still, he was on several big advisory boards, American Grease, Cleveland. And they said, hey, Jack's right across the street. I'm like, oh, and you can sell IP telephony because we just started selling that. They go, oh, how many phones does he need? About 2, having his assistant. So anyway, Jack, I said, tell him I have an office right down the hall. It was my partner's old office. So it's Keating, like just lobbying it out there. The next day he called, he wanted to bring Jack in. So I said, sure, bring you in. He comes in, I walk him all around. I showed him the new IP telephony, and we just put picture tell, the video conferencing, big 50-inch screens. You could see people all over the world. And if you have to still do that, you do it here and blah, blah, blah. And he left me like, the green people kept their word. I met Jack Kale. I didn't think of anything on it. About 20 minutes later, I go back to my desk, and I was already a voicemail on my phone, and I go, I listened to it. It's Jack. He wants to move in the office in 2 weeks. I'm like, somebody pinch me. So he comes in and I meet with them. It's a really too long story. I'm going to fast forward to the after he starts, but it's a beautiful. I'll tell you this next part, but I'll tell you that later. He comes in, he's moved in now. He comes in Monday, and on Wednesday he comes over. Have you read this book? And he puts the book down on my desk. It was called The Vital Difference. I've never heard of it. I go, no, I didn't. So I took the book and I put it on the side. He walked out, and the next day he comes in with a second book. He goes, have you read this book? I'm like, didn't even open the first book. I was there. I go, no, I took that. But and the third day, Thomas, he comes with the third book. And I'm like, Jack, we're going to start this weekend. And I'll tell you, I was more of your C and B student. I wasn't your A student. I told you, Tim was a way smarter one. I hated school. I hated reading. I like being outside. I like doing. I have 3 books now, and I have this guy I admire more than anything. And scared. Well, I come the weekend, I go home, I start reading. Well, I'm reading, and I'm having these paradigm shifts, a new level of understanding. It completely starts changing the way I'm thinking, and I start devouring the books, and then I go back and Jack, I got this. I go, tell the team, it's easy, Moses. I'm like, what? You can't be like Moses with Jack. Come down. This is what you got to do. So you got to get your team involved too. So then I started a book club. And I told them, once a week, we're going to get together. We're going to read this one book, a chapter a week. Whoever wants to, by breakfast, we'll discuss it depth. And we did that, and then everybody started having the same paradigm shift and a new level of understanding how to do things. So we started trying to pull our teams in too. So it was an unbelievable growth time for us. So just didn't turn around because with the effort, but it was learning new things and changing the way we're doing things and getting everybody involved. And it was really an exciting time.
Yeah, it's good, mate. I love it when it's like this because you're just getting all these natural stories. And that's compounding because the team coming in, reading a chapter, like discussing it, like relaying it all back to each other. Again, all the benefits are compounding across the whole team, aren't they?
That's so important what you just said, because what I thought was I had already read the book we were going to read, The First Stars, and I'm like, I'm going to show them how brilliant I am. I know this and that. So when I just had, 19 people on the first one. So I had everybody go around and say, tell me the top 3 things you got out of this. 1 to 3 things. And I had a manager, I had an engineer in there, a project manager, CFO, sales person, all these different little things they brought up. I never looked at 80% of the way they looked at them. Okay. So I learned a whole other, how they were thinking. And 2, I didn't know, I was definitely not the smartest in the room, maybe the dumbest in the room. But it was cool because it was reading a book, 19 different eyes, and it's way different than reading it by yourself.
Yeah, there's so many benefits. There's like the benefit you've just given there of seeing it from different angles. There's like the culture, the team bonding benefit. There's the people that have understood it, they're relaying it, so it's reinforcing things in their mind while simultaneously looking at. Yeah, there's a lot of wins.
A lot of wins.
Yeah, a lot of wins. Yeah, it's good. The other thing as well, like you mentioned, like complementary skill set as well with your partner, and then complementary, like you mentioned with the LED company, that there's some cross-selling opportunity and that complements each other. I think like maybe as a bit of a pattern, the complementary skill set with the partner is a massive one. Because if you're both, I imagine you really client facing, really good at sales. If you're both like that, there probably would have been some arguments.
Yeah, either arguments or just other things were done as well, like either an operations standpoint or so. We had a very strong background too. I think that helped. I hope that helped. You just don't see a lot of it. I see so many partnerships where it just gets to not fisticuffs, but like things that it just doesn't work well. And if you lose that, you don't have that both synergy and scaling, then it's tough because the team sees it too. And it's just a trickle down. You don't want it to, like the 2 parents of this one's fighting, or that's fighting. I'll go to this one this time or that one. It really makes for a tough way to just grow a business.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for the faith thing. I went years ago, Chris, I went to get hypnotized to stop drinking. It worked for about 3 or 4 months. And I didn't touch a beer for 3 or 4 months, but then it gradually wore off. But the hypnotist sat me down and he said, oh, do you know what a lot of the problems in the world and anxiety and stress, he goes, it all comes from like people not like praying like once a week or once a day, whatever the religion is. He goes, everyone's moved away from that. And he said a lot of the problems in the world come from that because it just having a bit of time on a daily or a weekly basis just to chill or meditate, like all that's gone and we're consuming so much information. And he was saying that's where a lot of problems come from these days.
It's crazy. Do you pray now?
I don't pray, but I meditate, and not at the minute I've fallen back off it. Sometimes I'm really good. Sometimes the time when I need it the most is probably when I don't do it and I need to do it. Do you pray or meditate?
I try to start off the day every day with it. It says we should pray throughout the day. Pray driving in your car, pray before you go on a call, pray in the hospital. But I try to start out, I got a small Bible app called Holy Bible. It's on my phone. And it's fantastic because it gives you just a little verse every morning. And it gives you a 2 to 3 minute talk about it. You have a 2 to 3 minute read about it. Then there's a lot more you could do in there. But if you just get that much in there, then I just go through the things I'm thankful for each day and the people I'm praying for. It just sets the tone for my day. It's fantastic. And I don't want to just forget about him all day because he's there all around. The Jack Kales have left us. My parents have left us. Hoping they're all together. And I know they are in a great place. And the Lord's always with us. So we just don't want to ignore him because he's there to help us and mom us.
Yeah, I think as well, it just like when you stop and it just keeps things in perspective. We're all chasing this and building this and hitting certain goals. And that's all great. But sometimes we just need to go, hang on a minute, like we're all lucky, everything's okay, like things could be worse.
The thing about is, where are we going 100 years from now? Where are we going to be? We're not going to be here, and is there a place after? And if we don't think about that, then we're really shortchanging ourselves because no matter how perfect we are here, how many books we read and all that, it's so very profitable. And really, why are we really here? And how did we get here? So even starting a company, I even try to think, like, where did this all come from? I'm Greek by trade, so I have this heritage and I have this culture and I have this proudness because my parents were born in Greece and they came here because this was the land of opportunity. But my dad always said, you're a Greek American. This is the best country in the world, America. Like your heritage is Greek. And at one time, this is who we were. The Acropolis, Parthenon, the stars, the Pythagorean theory, and all that. But then where was it before that? When I started thinking about it, where did it come from? And I won't get just super crazy religious on here, but the more I started looking into it, it's like, it's impossible. It was impossible in my thinking of the theory that two things could collide and there's this big bang and this one amoeba could just become all these beautiful things. A tree, a frog, a person, all the different things. It's like DNA is, okay, when they take your DNA, this is your DNA. If they take mine, they know it's me and they know it's you. But never wrong. So how did they evolve into these different things? They didn't. So none of it made sense, except that there was something way more powerful than me. And so then if that is the case, and then there's this book called the Bible, it was inspired by God and written over 1,500 years. And I said, I better start looking and paying attention to this because then you start saying, yes, don't store up your treasures here, which is what we try to do. We build our business, we put our money in the market, we put it in crypto, we put it here. Because guess what? You're not taking it with you. It's not going to go with you. What did you do here to help other people? What did you do here to serve it? And Jack wrote a great book called Leading from the Heart, and he gave me so many books on servant leadership. And that's why the two go so hand in hand to me when I said about rallying a Christian faith. Jesus was the greatest servant of all time. And that's really what we're supposed to do here is be servants, not just take some hotshot things. We're running a company. We're really here to serve. When we started, Tim and I started Logos. We started because the company we were at were still paying their bills on time. They weren't listening to the customer and they weren't listening to the employees. Here's this thing. We started our company, so we're going to pay our bills. Whether we have the money or not, we'll borrow on our houses if we have to. We're going to treat our customers and our employees like we want to be treated. And that was our philosophy. Or I sold, it went back to the same thing. It was a public company that all they wanted to do was make that quarterly nut. Whether the deal was ready or not, close it. It's not ready. Just get the PO in and okay, the customer needs this. Doesn't matter. We're going to do this. It's about the stockholders. And they didn't care about the sales, the employees, and they didn't care about the customers. It's about closing a deal. We're here to serve each other and serve the stock price, so to speak.
Yes. Different buyers come in because they stop. It becomes the complete opposite to a long-term approach, doesn't it? Just because.
Yeah, they paid a multiple and they got a 3 to 5 year plan to get that higher. And they have said, it depends what your long-term plan is. And it's all for them. We got to be thinking though, if we're on Earth for 100 years and infinity of time was from here to wherever, the Bible says we're but vapors. We're here for a fraction of the time. So what are we doing to ensure that we're going to that next place?
Yeah. Right, it'd be good to come back to selling the business in a minute because there'll be other business owners that will be fascinated by that process. And I'm sure you've got a few stories to tell. I think just on the faith point as well, Chris, like the first time you and your partner set the business up and you're doing this and doing that, you're on the up and you've got the momentum. But then when like your partner's left and you've bought things out and the market's dipped and this is gone and you've got to then go again and build up and still make power. I think that level of, because to do it second time round, like that's a different level of character. And that is where you need the faith and stuff. And something above, something higher has got to take over because to do it a second time and then a third time in 2008, I think that's a different level of character.
It's kind of like just saying you went from first grade, then you went to second grade, then you went to third grade. I always look at all this as these are just meant to strengthen us. All these challenges the Lord puts before us. He doesn't guarantee us that we're not going to get cancer or we're not going to have a crash in the market. But putting the faith in him, what just helps you build your character, shows others how your faith. And that's sometimes you want to show faith through the tough times you're going. Job did not have a perfect life in the Bible. By any means, he looked at everything, daily and all. And I'll say one more thing about Logos. When we started, we were selling modems and multiplexers. And most people don't even know what those were, but they were very early devices. And when a modem does the modulated signal, demodulated, took the sound and it turned it into digital. So it was transformed from bits to bytes. And Well, we used to start a company. There was a million companies called Datacom this and data that and data. So we were like, we're going to do something different. So Logos Communications, Logos in Greek is a Greek word for the word, the Bible. Logos in the dictionary means a word or symbols. So a modem was taking these, if you get into the binary of the start and stop bits and all that, these little things became, the symbols became, hexadecimal became the word. So we thought we had the dual meaning of logos as the word and logos as the symbols that are going through the line. So we thought Logos Communications, people don't hear about logos, it'll be LCI, Logos Communications thing. But logos seem to stick. We go to, hey, the Arkham logos are here. Hey, logos is here. So I think we almost started it on a phase. But now it's between the two of us. We didn't try to empower it on everybody. Hey, you have to believe. We can, I'll say non-believers. But I think you can spread the message from how you act as opposed to sometimes what you try to force on someone.
Yeah. And what went down then when you sold the business? Was it like a crazy process or?
No, that's a great question. Remember, the third one was the 08 meltdown. What happened around 07 was things were feeling good. And then it was like, well, we're set up to be $100 million company. So we're like in the mid-20s. And the plan was, we'll buy a company 1 year, we'll grow this much that year, and hire a few other people. And then the next year we'll grow by that much more, buy one more. So that was, we have a 4 to 5 year plan to get to 100 million. Because being a Cisco reseller is one of the biggest products we had. And we were the first Cisco reseller in the state of Ohio. I was still in the telex from the early 90s. We always signed up. These partners were just getting bigger and bigger every day. 100 million was like where you had to just, like the starting point to be like a gold partner.
Wow.
And then they were going to be $1 billion before you knew it. They're just getting so big. So we wanted to stay relevant, let's say. So we buy our first company, and it was a very first line buy. They probably didn't do the right due diligence. It said it had this much in inventory, and 80% of it was obsolete. It was two different cultures. It was just horrendous. We ended up trying to make it work, but it was really a good example of not knowing how much right due diligence to do. But that was 07, right? The meltdown. The other thing that happened was we had some really nice clients. One was National City Bank, and it was unfortunately a third of our business. It was just such a big vendor, but we loved them. They loved us, and we had great business with them. And what happened? They got bought by PNC, and they took the purchasing to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh doesn't like Cleveland. It doesn't like Cleveland because we want a third of our business right there. We bought this other company, which was a drain. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then the meltdown happens. So all three, when people, there was like 30% less buy. So like the perfect storm where three stupid things collide. Oh my gosh. Can't believe it's snapping together. Thought we had everything going. It was clicking. And so what do? We like, okay, we're never going to be tied to one gigantic client again. So I met with the sales team. I said, let's go after 4. Hopefully we get to, and that strategy. So we just reformulated everything. We went after the likes of Goodyear, Sherwin Warriors, Cleveland Clinic, Kent State. We want all 4, not 1. So we started getting some of those going. So mobile, I do that like 09. It takes a while to get them really good. All in all, we just started working on it. I get approached by Cisco, and they said, hey, there's a huge partner that's looking to buy really quality boutique Cisco reseller for voice. They don't know how to sell Cisco voice, and you guys are one of a few less that we recommend. We're just getting back on our feet and we're not looking to sell. Let's just move it. So I wasn't looking to sell. They came at us, and I'm looking at it. So can I have 5 offices in the Midwest, Ohio, Columbus, Chicago, Detroit? They have 74 throughout the U.S., 140 around the world total, 4,000 employees. They were already a gold partner, but they didn't know how to sell Cisco that great. They just wanted to bring us in to sell it through all their offices. All like, oh man, I wasn't ready to sell right now. And I told them, I've got these deals going, and when they close them, they're worth a lot more. So they actually factored in half of them and said, look, even if you close half, you want to close in, but this is what we're going to do. And so I've gone through this 3 times now in 20 years, 3 big crashes kind of thing. So I was like, maybe it's time to take some money out. So we sold.
Okay. Nice. That's good.
They agreed to keep everybody. Okay. Nobody got them. Except my wife. She was doing her legal stuff, but she was more on our side, and they had their own legal department. So I thought that made sense. I would run the Cisco division for the whole country. By the time I left it, we had around 105, 110 people on our team. We grew the division to 80 million. We were very profitable for them. All that stuff.
Cool. Yeah. I think the fact that you got approached, that puts you in a bit more control.
Yeah, I didn't go out there looking.
Yeah, cool. I know you mentioned due diligence on that company you purchased. Was there a lot of due diligence on this?
Well, yes, they were very professional. This is the crazy thing. Hundreds acquisition over a 4-year period. They were team, but they bought like Norstan, which was a huge huge telephony company. Their demise was that they bought so many disparate type companies, and it was successful. When they bought us, they were doing $1 billion a year and they were making 10%. So they were making $25 million a quarter max. Or it kept them all separate companies. I would go in and bid the Cisco IP telephony to a company, and Norstan division would be bidding Avaya. Someone else would be, or Norton, another one would be bidding Avaya, all from Black Box. The problem was we had 3 different engineering type groups putting this together, only one Lightwing. I'm still competing with other Cisco resellers and so kept going to the management. This is a huge waste of energy to go after one. Southwest is so successful because they have one plane, one type of engineer, or one type of a big pilot, a little pilot, all these different spare parts and all that. And they just didn't resonate. So you don't know what you're talking about. We're making a lot of money. We're making $5 million on this little thing. My total $5 million. One of my orders is twice as much as it is. We're not making that much. Got it. So anyway, that was my philosophy. Their philosophy was working until it didn't. When I left, we were down to $700 million, even though our division was growing like crazy. The rest of the company was going. And within a couple of years after that, almost all my team members had left. The stock went from the 20s to under $1. Oh, privatized. Someone came in and just bought it up. So it didn't work having offerings of the same thing, keeping everything disparate. There was no synergy between them.
Yeah. So you want to not dilute the service offering. And if you are having multiple things, they need to complement each other.
Yeah. At least not fight against each other, compete against different things, but they don't like waste resources on the same opportunity.
Yeah. So what did you do after that, Chris? Did you go and sit on a beach for a few years and chill?
No, the very next day I started Promethea. First for companies, I'm not ready to stop yet.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine you on the beach, mate, chilling out. I don't think that's in you.
I'm going to the beach, but I just didn't take loving now. I see some of these kids, I'm going to take a year off after school. Like, what? No, you're not. You're going to work. Like, that's not how you do it now. Like, oh, gosh, this is a different world.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, you started Promethea, and then Simvay came just a bit after that?
That was 2016, and Simvay came in 2020.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And yeah, there's been some real ups and downs on the road to success, haven't there? It's interesting to hear you say them as well, because it's nice for the people to hear, because people just see the end, just see the sale, just see the business sale, or just multiple businesses.
There's so much behind the scenes. There really is. And I would have employees that say, I want to do it. Go do it. And I'll even help you get started. You just got to understand this is how it's going to be. And a lot of the story we just talked about, I'll try to give them as many of it as I can. And I'm not saying this to try to keep you here or try to scare you, but you have to understand you're going to have some sleepless nights. You don't even know how you're going to make payroll. That's okay. That's part of the big brick building that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Question: you talked about the advisory. You talked about the advisory board. So was that? And I know you're like advising your companies now, but the advisory board at the time, back in the day, was that to advise the business on how to prosper?
So what Jack talked about was he started his when he's around 20 million and had it all the way to about 200 million. And sure, some of the guys that you brought in made that ride all the way through. You might bring someone in who has a $50 million company and advising you 20 million, they've seen certain things, but then you get to 100 million, it's a whole different company. There's a paper he gave me, thresholds company that are at different size levels of 5 million versus 20 million versus 100 million versus $1 billion. You have different problems. And it's very rare that one leader can even take themselves through that kind of like growth path. So what you do is when you start advisory board, you look for someone who's like your marketing genius or financial genius, HR person. You fill it with different specialties that you'll meet once a quarter. And what's really amazing was I ended up with 6 people on my board. And it was, I think, as much of time that I would sit with my executive team, let's call it, and plan what we were going to tell them that forced us to sit and we called it stractical, like strategic and tactical. Okay. And we try, well, it's practical. If we're not strategic, at least, because when you don't have that, you are just in the front line fighting every day. It's a war, and you're just trying to battle. Everyone's battling. We would have these little meetings kind of thing. This one was like, I knew I had some very high up people in my board that were going to take a half a day to a day out of their life every quarter. And I didn't want to waste their time. So I was trying to put together everything we had going on for the quarter, what we're planning for the year and beyond. And I wanted to make it as useful as possible. And it was so funny that just the time just spending with my team was as valuable sometimes as spending in the meeting. And then what we did was debrief after. And so like, we thought this was it. I still remember when OA was coming, Jack Kale saying, Chris, you have a boulder coming down on your head and you don't even see it. You need to let go of around 15% of your staff right now. What? Let go? What are you talking about? You can't take all this on yourself. There's always, even on a good tree, there's always pruning to do. And you haven't pruned it. You got to do this right now and report back to us. I'm like, what? That was like Mark's craziest moment ever. And he was right. And after we did it, I had people who stayed thank me because it was people that we should have been pruning. We weren't like Jack Welch taking 10% out every year. But because when you get too fat, dumb, and happy, you're like, I'll just leave them. But what happens is, if there are C players and you have A players, will start looking at you like a C player because you're tolerating a C player. I'm telling you stuff you already know, but so you should prune because you got to keep accountability to your team. There are A players. That was hard to do. The board helps you make those decisions. They can see it unemotionally because they're like your coach right there, kind of this valuable asset to have as a company.
That sounds really good. It brings the team together, makes you all more accountable. So there's 6 people on the board. You're in marketing, finance, you're meeting once a quarter. Did you assemble the board?
I told you at the beginning, Jack, if you had 12 hours right now, I would just tell you the whole Jack story. Hey, Thomas, because I live long enough to become a little more senile, I'm going to tell people how I do Sam Walton. Because he's told so many stories of Sam that I feel like, even though he died before I met Jack, but Jack is that's a phenomenal story. So I won't get into that right now, but in the beginning, when Jack told me you should look at a board, he goes, as a matter of fact, I'm speaking at Cleveland State next week with 11 other board members from, at the time, it was like Ohio Edison and BPOL and all this stuff in Cleveland. And you should come and hear it. I'm like, okay. I was on a sales call. I said, I got to get there. Got there at the last minute. It was one of those big auditoriums, 350 people. I walked all the way down. There was no seats until the front row middle. Right. Oh, one chair. Right just about, this place was packed. I sit there, and Jack's up there, and the other 11 big, those are the cities around the city, and they're introducing each one. And Jack goes, and they introduce Jack. He goes, hey, Jack's new. Now he's stole Mango. He's out there. And Jack, thank you. It's great to be here today. And I just got to say one thing. I'm going to be on my best behavior because my landlord, Chris Tjotjos, is right in the front row. And Chris, the check's in the mail. What? And others laughing. I did a dap on my back. It's another big CEO from the company, from McDonald Company. His name was Bill Summers. I need to hear the story of how you're his landlord. Holy moly. The point of that story was, Jack was so well known is that when he came back about a year later, I said, Jack, I'm starting a board because you're right. I need it. And will you please be, I know you're in a lot of boards, but will you please be on my board? And he goes, can't do another board, but I'll do yours. Because he treated me like, I'll say like a son. He was just a great guy to me. So one day I had Jack on, people died and he got out of board. So the key is starting our board, so to speak. I had Jack and it was great. I got great people because of that. So I went and approached them. One couldn't make it. He was on too many boards that I would love to all advise you where I can, but I can't make another career. I just have too many, so I get. But everybody else was easy. So we go for 10 years, all the way till we sold. And then I didn't keep the board when we were a public company anymore. They wanted in their own version of it.
Okay, yeah. That sounds really good because I'm just relating it back to myself now and like just having a sounding board, having people that are further ahead than you, and you're having people in the same industry that are so many tens of million above you on revenue. And then if you overtake where they are, you swap them out. So you're always dealing with people that are like, 3 years ahead.
You know what's fascinating about that, Thomas, is sometimes you can get 3 or 4 guys and they don't even have to be smarter than you. But what they are is they're unemotional about what's happening. When you're emotional, like we did a lot of sales coaching. We paid for a lot of sales through Sandler, the concepts. There was a local coach and we used him for years. And with. We give like an opportunity. I'm like, we call them up. They say, this is so that, this is so that. It's like, but see, they looked at it like, they didn't care if they won or lost the deal. They cared, this is how you win the deal. So a board is like that. They're not as emotional because it's not their dollar, but they've seen it and they can tell you this exactly. And you don't always take their advice, but most of the time you will.
Yeah. It's like when they've said you've got to trim 15% of the workforce. You're in with them every day. These are your people. They're like, no, just trimming, but they can do it unemotional.
They said you got to hold with the maths, not that, because you're going to all go down. That's how you remember. If you're too much weight on the ship, you don't throw off some. The whole ship's thinking. Like, well, then you say, okay, I don't want to get in this situation again. So I'm going to be better on the next over because it hurts.
Yeah, it's good. Wait, it's been great because we've been chatting for nearly an hour, but it's gone quick. And
it's been wonderful to read these real stories.
I love it, mate, because I'm going on the business journey myself and I'm trying to grow and I've taken people on that some have worked, some haven't. And I'm trying to it's 1 step, 2 steps forward, 1 step back and all that. So it's really nice listening to you speak. So if I'm feeling like that, I know other people listening will feel like that when it goes out. So thanks, mate. It's good. It's entertaining. It's probably a lot easier to talk about it on a podcast than at the time when those big hits are coming.
One little thing, I haven't started a new board yet, which I'm right to with Simvay. We're getting there. It's good to be a certain size kind of thing. But in the meantime, what I've done is I tried to type in to chat everything I know about Jack, all the experiences I had with him. Mm-hmm. Then I also put the books he put in and I said, here's his old website. Go out the internet, search everywhere you can. And then I also put in like Elon Musk, Bezos, Rockefeller. I love the Rockefeller habits. That's for harsh. I love Rockefeller the Titan, and I just read the book, The 38 Letters Rockefeller wrote to his son, which is great. You should read that if you haven't. And I just put those books in and the people, and I said, if I got this situation coming up at Simvay right now, and I want to think these guys as my board, what would they tell me? I cannot believe the advice is coming out. It's phenomenal.
Oh, wait.
Or your own board, AI the board. And some of my friends say, I get out and look. The key to AI that I found in my little experience that you've got to see what you're thinking in there, put it in there, or to spit out. So don't be afraid to see everything you're thinking.
Yeah. And Chris, one last question for me. What size does a company need to be to get a board together?
I think some of it depends on what kind of a company. If you have a $20 million product company, that's different than a $10 million services company because $10 million is mostly all revenue. 20 million product could just be 18 million product and 2 million of processing, not as big. So the number, it depends on what kind of business you're in. I think if you have, at the time I was like around 40 some employees, it was just at a good time because I was just getting the level of I didn't understand. I've seen $100 million companies that don't have a board and they're still doing okay, but those guys could be 250 and 300. Yeah. If you're stuck at that plateau, then you should look at trying to get outside help, but they're too proud sometimes. We need a board. People this way.
Yeah. They could be like this story you told before where they're at 100 million and then in 5 years' time they don't exist anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know that a $1 million company with 3 employees can start a board. It's not worth it for me. We still give them a little stipend. It's not a lot, but it's got to be enough where you just have some issues and you're at the point where you can't figure this out fast enough. It's coming at me every second.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, mate. No, honestly, it's been really good, Matt. Thanks again, buddy. Really enjoyed it. And it's been good. Thanks, Chris.
Look forward to seeing you.
Yeah. Cool, mate.
Right. Appreciate it, Thomas.